3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Oh, what a Friday it is here in the great state of Oklahoma. Our last Friday before the 2025 college football season begins. Now, I do consider it abhorrent that the college football season is starting in Ireland, of all places, instead of here in the US of A. But the college football season does get started tomorrow with Iowa State and Kansas State, a top 25 matchup across the pond. And, of course, as we sit here, we are 8 days away from the return of Sooner football as Oklahoma hosts Illinois State at 5 p.m. on August 30th in the Palace on the Prairie. Can you take a guess as to where in the world I am today, Grayson Singleton?
I'm going to say somewhere in the 918.
I am somewhere in the 918. You are correct. A particularly beautiful place in the 918. I am currently staring out over Grand Lake of the Cherokees.
Hey!
Now, the view is partially obstructed because of some of the really tall oak trees that grow around Grand Lake. But I got to give a shout-out here, and this is not a paid advertisement. This is just me tipping my cap to a good friend. My guy Michael runs Firewater Escape up here off of Grand Lake. If you need to book a big rental property for like an extended family vacation or something, you got a lot of people, up to 15 as a matter of fact. Michael and Firewater Escape can accommodate you up here. He's got this ridiculously beautiful house, basketball court, pool, the whole 9 yards. But anytime I come up here, the other thing he's got on his property out here at Grand Lake is these two little cabins that are just basically hotel rooms, two-room outfits. You get a little kitchenette. There's a bed. There's a bathroom. There's a washing machine if you need to use that. And so I hit Michael up earlier this week and said, hey, man, I'm swinging through the 918. Any chance one of your cabins is available this week? And lo and behold, it was. So always love being up here. Always appreciate Michael's hospitality. Again, Firewater Escape if you're up here in the Grand Lake area. He's the guy you're going to want to tap in with, and his property is definitely one you're going to check out. Again, if you're just traveling solo or traveling as a couple, one of these cabins is going to be perfect. Or if you need something a little bigger, you need to accommodate a lot of folks. His main property here at Firewater Escape is the real deal.
So you've been living pretty out there, huh?
Well, problem is I never have a whole lot of time to just enjoy Grand Lake because I'm always going a million miles an hour to the next thing. Like I'm getting off the airwaves today, and then it's down to Fort Gibson to see Cooper Hackett. But, yes, beautiful area of the country. Always love being up here. The show is brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. Family-owned and operated. They pride themselves on having the best service advisors and technicians. They offer half-price oil changes on Saturdays, so if you didn't have plans for the weekend, now you do. Get out to Dorsey Jones GMC and get that oil changed at half price. But if you're in the market for a brand-new vehicle, you can't do much better than GMC. They offer some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the road today. So check out Dorsey Jones. Now, the original reason I came up here, Grayson, was to speak for the OU Club of Tulsa at their kickoff event last night. Thanks to their president, Julia. Thanks to Travis Davidson, who's heavily involved with OU Club of Tulsa as well, for helping to make that happen. Awesome opportunity to connect with some familiar faces and some new faces associated with the OU Club of Tulsa up here in Green Country. So that was a blast. And you know what, Grayson? I interacted with them, spoke and answered questions for a little over an hour, I do believe. We covered a lot of ground, and so it was basically like doing another show yesterday. However, one of the questions that did arise that is pertinent to both recruiting and the current roster is a question that I figured I would steal and use as the lead for our show today on this Friday. And so I will pose this question to you. What position group do you believe post-2025 needs the most work at the University of Oklahoma? What position group could stand for a makeover more so than all the others?
Could stand for a makeover post-2025? I've got two that come to mind, and it's mostly because of people they lose. And the answer to me is linebacker and running back. Because if Jaden Ott has a really productive year, he'll be out the door to the NFL. Javonte Barnes is out of eligibility after this year. So with the unknowns of the people that you have coming up from behind them, you could reasonably say that, hey, like, we're going to have to get some new blood in here, at least just to cover ourselves if Taylor Tatum can't hold on to the football, or if Xavier Robinson, even though he's good, isn't great. That sort of thing. Linebacker simply is just because they don't really have a whole lot of depth, like Brandon Drum alluded to in the 1 o'clock hour. They don't have a lot of depth there, and they could be primed to lose a couple of people here after this season too. So if I look at this from the standpoint of reloading, because there's not a unit on this team that's just a glaring liability, so it's not going to be a situation of who do we need to make sure that we really get good people here, otherwise we're just going to keep going down the same rabbit hole. It, to me, is who's going to need the most replacing, or which unit has the potential to really take a dip in 2026 if you don't reload and remodel that position. So I would go running back and linebacker to answer that question.
The two popular answers on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line are tight end and linebacker. And tight end was actually the group that I went with in answering that question last night for the OU Club of Tulsa, because I said, you know what, as I look at this current tight end room, there's a great deal of healthy competition right now for the starting role when the season opens up between four guys. Carson Kent, Will Huggins, Jaron Cannett, Caden Helms. The question I have is, especially beyond 2025, does Oklahoma have a true difference maker at tight end? I'm hopeful that Caden Helms is going to be that guy. He's shown flashes of being that guy. But it's obviously something that right now, given his limited college production to this point, you can't really count on until you start to really see it on Saturdays on a regular basis. Now, Jaron Cannett graduates at season's end. Will Huggins graduates at season's end. As you project ahead to what the depth chart at that position looks like in 2025, you assume, obviously, that Carson Kent and Caden Helms will be back. You assume that Cade McIntyre will be back and that Trinae Washington will be back. You add to the fold Ryder Mix and I almost said Bo Bentley for whatever reason. Ryder Mix and Tyler Ruxer at tight end. Bo Bentley will be playing quarterback, folks, not tight end. He will be playing quarterback.
Sure about that?
Of Oklahoma. Yes, but Ryder Mix, Tyler Ruxer coming in, two guys that, I mean, Ruxer is a blue chipper right now. I think Mix can get there by the end of the cycle. So there's help on the way, but I do think that room needs to improve in advance of 2026. And the answers might be right there on the roster. Like I said, there's a good chance Caden Helms is the guy. There's a good chance, hey, Trinae Washington could be the guy. Man, he's put on so much good weight since he got here. There's a really good chance that Ryder Mix, especially with how battle-tested he is after playing high school football at the varsity level in the state of Texas since his sophomore year in 6A, that he's going to be able to provide immediate value for Oklahoma. And I'm still, I'm unwilling to give up on the Cade McIntyre experiment. I think there's something there. But regardless, something has to shake at the tight end position to make me feel like, all right, Oklahoma's got a legit difference maker, which is something it feels like in the SEC and especially in an offense like this one, you need.
No doubt. But here's the thing. The reason I wouldn't go with tight end over those two positions that I just named is because of the relative importance in the offense in a Ben Arbuckle offense. So last year at Washington State, you know how many passes were caught by a tight end for the Cougars last year?
Not that many.
21. 21 passes were caught by tight ends, and that's spread between 4 different players. So the tight end, especially in the passing game, is sort of obsolete in a Ben Arbuckle offense. The running back situation is certainly going to be a hell of a lot more important, and the linebacker position obviously is Brent Venables' bread and butter. Now, I'm not saying you need to be weak at tight end and get away with it, especially in the SEC. At minimum, they have to be capable blockers and capable chippers in the pass game. But in terms of the value to Oklahoma and what I think Oklahoma is going to look like, unless Ben Arbuckle deviates away from what he was doing at Washington State, so much so that the tight end position becomes one that stands out, I think it drops in importance just a little bit.
And to me, I go back to what Ben Arbuckle said right when he was introduced as Oklahoma's next offensive coordinator. He said, I'm going to allow my personnel to dictate the scheme. We're going to scheme to our personnel. And so what I want to see is, and you're right, it may very well be the case that in 2025 there aren't a ton of passes thrown the tight end's way in Ben Arbuckle's offense, especially if it is true that nobody really separates in that room and emerges as a difference maker. But what I want to see is I want to see somebody step up at that position and make Ben Arbuckle incorporate them more into the game plan.
Sure.
I want Ben Arbuckle to face that reality when he's sitting there in the film room and in the meeting rooms that I have a tight end right now at the University of Oklahoma that I've got to get the ball to more. Even if we haven't done it a ton in the past at Washington State, even if we aren't doing it a ton in 2025 or did it a ton in 2025, there's a tight end on my roster right now that needs to be on the field and running routes as much as possible. Because having an elite tight end in particular, I mean, that changes the entire complexity of an offense, Grayson. That creates so many problems for the opposition because it's a very fundamental truth about the tight end. He's a much larger human being than a wide receiver or a running back. So if you have somebody that is that large of a human being that can be a weapon in the passing game and that can help out as a blocker, not necessarily block the best edge rushers in the SEC one-on-one. Hello, Bauer Sharp. Not your fault. Don't worry. But at least be able to, if you're in six-man protection, for instance, just help that offensive line hold up against some of the fiercer rushers and fiercer front lines that you're going to face in the SEC. Michael and Marlowe on the text line says, when has Arbuckle had a tight end worth using? Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. I want there to be a tight end at Oklahoma that Ben Arbuckle feels is worth using and worth throwing the ball to with regularity. Spartan Sooner says, I feel like Arbuckle is a guy that if he has a Mark Andrews or Jermaine Gresham, he'll get them the ball. I mean, again, that goes back to what Arbuckle said when he was introduced, right? If the personnel is indeed dictating the scheme, if he winds up with a Mark Andrews or a Jermaine Gresham, yeah, that guy's going to be getting the ball.
No, and that makes sense. But I the only pushback I will give on that, and I think that is right. If he gets an elite prospect, he's going to use him because, that's just the right thing to do. But Cooper Mathers was a more than serviceable tight end for Washington State, especially situationally last year. He caught 6 touchdowns, but it came on 13 receptions. So whether or not the targets just weren't accurate from John Mateer to that one particular guy or something else with the way he deployed his personnel down in and down out, it just didn't seem like, even though Cooper Mathers is no All-American dude, he is still a solid player. For some reason, it just didn't seem like he was featured a whole heck of a lot. Obviously, if you have a 5-star tight end, you're going to make a more concerted effort to accommodate that dude into your offense and into your passing game. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose him.
A listener in Texas says, I played tight end at a Power 4 school and started 17 games back in the early 90s. The most difficult thing for a tight end is hands down the blocking game. It's the separation between tight ends. Be that as it may, I would like to see a tight end featured prominently in Oklahoma's offense that is a weapon as a pass catcher. Now, that cannot come at the expense of security within the pocket for the quarterback. That's part of the reason why Oklahoma couldn't play Taylor Tatum a ton last year. Because, yes, he was explosive. He was dangerous with the ball in his hands. If he was tasked with picking up a blitzing linebacker, for instance, It wasn't happening. He wasn't a good blocker. He didn't execute his blocking assignments with great regularity. And so, yeah, you have to have a tight end on the field that at the very least can hold his own as a blocker. But I would rather have, especially in 2025, I would rather have an elite pass-catching tight end who's a decent blocker than a decent pass-catching tight end who's an elite blocker. Oklahoma actually had one of those not too long ago. His name was Daniel Parker. He played at OU in 2022. Did you remember Daniel Parker existed before I just said his name? No, not really. I would wager you did not. So, again, that kind of goes back to the point, especially with the way offense is played in the modern day. I think 95% of institutions across the country would rather have a guy that's an elite pass catcher and a solid blocker than a solid pass catcher and an elite blocker.
Okay.
No, what's up?
Okay, so let me ask you this question. I know we got to get out of here. Do you think Ben Arbuckle uses 4 wide receiver a lot this year? 4 wide, run 1 running back.
I don't really feel like I can answer that question right now. I think in the early stages of the season, what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of variety in terms of the personnel groupings on the field for Oklahoma. And then the success that Oklahoma has with those personnel groupings is going to dictate their base packages and formations for the rest of the season. So I would be lying if I told you I felt confident in answering that question in a blanket capacity for the 2025 season. But, for instance, when they go out there on the field against Illinois State next Saturday, I think you will see 10 personnel. I think you will see 12 personnel. I think at times you will see some two-back stuff. I think you'll see a lot of variety as Oklahoma kind of starts to get a chance to feel out what works and what doesn't in real time against live bullets. And maybe Illinois State doesn't give you the best real barometer in that regard, but it'll tell you something. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. I have a couple of intriguing nuggets to drop from the practice field pertinent to the running back position on the other side. So stick around. More OU football and recruiting talk is ahead here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Feeling stuck in your current home? Now is the best time to make a move. Home Creations is making home ownership more affordable with low interest rate opportunities and special financing. Don't wait. Live like a champion today. Call Holly at 405-364-9999 to find your dream home.
364-9999 means Home Creations.
Oklahoma DRS helps job seekers with disabilities become taxpayers.
Their whole thing is to help people with disabilities go back to work.
They knew that I would be successful if I did not give up.
They have given me the power and confidence to face any challenge.
I'm just glad that, DRS was there. Empower yourself. Talk to DRS Vocational Rehabilitation.
Or services for the blind today.
OKDRS.gov. 800-487-4042.
The year 2019, we went on a family vacation and we went to an amusement park. And when you're a smoker, a lot of walking, that doesn't really mix. So I found myself being really winded and out of shape. And it was like, I'm too young for this. I wanted to use the Oklahoma Tobacco Helpline because I knew that I could get resources for free. It was a key part to my success in quitting smoking.
Visit us at okhelpline.com to get started. A program of TSET.
The Norman Chamber of Commerce encourages you to shop small this summer. At Heyday, a day of fun awaits the whole family. Laser tag, mini golf, ropes courses, bowling, and an exclusive 21 and up area. And now Hey Pickle Pickle is the spot in Norman for pickleball, whether you are new or a pro. Heyday and Hey Pickle Pickle pack a ton of fun. Make a splash at Signature Pool and Patio, Norman's premier swimming pool service, cleaning, patio, spa, and pool accessory destination. Get your patio essentials, ledge loungers, pool floats, umbrellas, pool toys, grill necessities, and so much more. Plus, stay local and get all your bases covered at Play It Again Sports. Get new and quality used gear right here in Norman. Buy, sell, or trade new and used sports equipment, including baseball, softball, football, tennis, soccer, and more. Remember, shopping small this summer can make a big impact.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Mathew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
Fowler Automotive is proud to be a part of your community, where our passion and values lie far beyond the showroom. We believe that families, sports, art, and culture are at the heart of every thriving community, and it's important to us that we help build the communities that our dealerships call home. Stop by any of our 6 Oklahoma dealerships to see the Fowler standard hard at work. We pride ourselves on being friendly, helpful, honest, and fair. This is what drives us every day. Fowler Automotive, a proud partner of OU Athletics.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it expanding your balance. Spend it expanding your mind. Spend it wondering what comes next. Spend it trusting that God has a plan. Spend it taking small steps in your own life. Spend it making a big impact on someone else's. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
Some breaking news here on the Wrath of the Homa Sooner fans. Parker Thune, Grayson, Singleton. You're listening to Locked In. Grayson, one of Oklahoma's September opponents has named a starting quarterback.
Is
it
it
not
Auburn?
the Auburn Tigers. I trolled you a little bit on this one. Kent State has named redshirt senior C.J. Montez their starting quarterback. He is apparently a 2-time transfer who has previously spent time at New Mexico and Fordham before now transferring to Kent State. So when the Golden Flashes return to Norman, they were here not too long ago. They played Oklahoma and played them pretty well for a half at least. Week 2 of the 2022 season. Ended up losing that game 34-3 after leading 3-0 at one point late in the second quarter. When the Golden Flashes come to Norman in September, they will have one C.J. Montez as their starting quarterback.
It still sickens me that that game is being played in late December against Kent freaking State.
Late December?
September. Did I say December?
I was about to say, whoa, is that a schedule? I
thought I said September.
Oh, man. No, thankfully, there are no – hopefully we never get to the point where there are meaningless non-con games being played in December.
Well, I mean, with the news that came down last night, I think we're getting further and further away from this nonsense. I call it nonsense. I know why they're played.
What do you think? You haven't had the chance to weigh in yet. If you could pick 3 annual opponents for Oklahoma, one is obviously Texas. Who are the other two for you?
For me, I would love to see A&M. I think that would bring a newer intrigue, especially after A&M left the Big 12 years ago. I also think that's a melding of two very interesting fan bases, and depending on where you are in the country, you have different opinions of the fan bases of Oklahoma and Texas A&M, but at minimum, they both are very interesting. So I do like that from a marketing standpoint. LSU, I think, is a must-do. I think LSU has to be one of them, especially with the potential of the uniform matchup. I think last year's game, even though it didn't go in Oklahoma's favor, was a really positive success at the time in the calendar at where it was, because LSU doesn't have that natural Thanksgiving weekend opponent, neither does Oklahoma, so I think that works. So I'd go those two. If it's not A&M, I think the rivalry between Oklahoma and Arkansas works. because of the border state, because there's so much crossover between those two states. I think those are two fan bases that would relish the opportunity to play each other every single year. So I would go – I think I would go Arkansas, LSU, but A&M really intrigues me.
OU, Arkansas, man, I want it to happen so bad. I think there's so much potential there. I think those fan bases could really, really clash with one another if given adequate opportunities to do so over action on the gridiron. By the way, I did lie to you all. I apologize. I don't know why in my head it was Auburn, Kent State, bye week, then Texas. It's actually Auburn, bye week, Kent State, then Texas. So Kent State doesn't come to Norman in September. They come on the first weekend of October. So October 4th is when that game is scheduled to occur. October 4th at 3 p.m. It's a 3 p.m. kick. And then, of course, you get the Cotton Bowl the next week. Okay, let me pay off the tease here. I mentioned it going into break, and so I'll circle back around to it here. A couple of interesting little tidbits from the practice field today based on a couple conversations I had earlier today with well-placed sources. Grayson, Torrey Blaylock is getting some first-team run at running back. Now, he's not getting the majority of it, not by a long shot, and I don't think that's a realistic expectation at any point this season, just based on how good Oklahoma is at the top end of that depth chart at running back. But the fact that a true freshman, and to be quite frank, a true freshman that I thought would redshirt, is getting first-team run a week before the season starts, and by all accounts has been one of the premier stock risers on this roster week after week throughout the fall. Things continue to point in the direction of Torrey Blaylock having a serious role on this football team.
Well, I think it's something. Let me ask you this. Before I go and answer this question, two questions for you, Parker. A, does injury have a substantial amount to do with this? And B, does it change your stance that he's going to redshirt?
Yeah, no. He's not redshirting at this point.
Okay.
I don't think there's any way that kid's redshirting.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're going to find snaps for him.
And what about the injury front? Is this dictated by injury, or is this, hey, we kind of want to see what we got here?
No, I mean, this is just, hey, Torrey Blaylock has been that good. And Brent Venables has said so many times now, it's embedded into some folks' minds, availability is the best ability. And Torrey Blaylock has been available. And from the jump, like I think he's the only running back that when you combine spring and fall, he has not missed a day of practice. Everybody else in that running back room has. He has not.
And I think that's paramount, too, because of the availability. But also keep this in mind in terms of how he fits in with the running back room. Jaden Knott is a very good running back, but you know what you're going to get from Jaden Knott. Defensive coordinators know, okay, this is what we're going to expect from Jaden Knott. This is what we could expect them to utilize him as. We know what we're going to get from Javonte Barnes. We know what kind of running back he's going to be. You want to throw somebody a curveball? Hey, throw this dude out here and see what he can do and catch people by surprise. I think that's a valuable asset to have. So, is he going – am I saying he's better or a more valuable asset than the other two? No, please don't get that misconstrued that way. But you see a lot of teams around college football that rotate in two running backs, and then there's usually a third that you don't really know of that as a broadcaster is kind of third or fourth on those spotter charts, and then here he comes and sometimes breaks off something. You're like, oh, where'd this guy come from? And I think it's valuable to have that guy up to speed and ready to go for when you can just bring that surprise bullet into the chamber and let him loose.
Here's another interesting wrinkle. And by the way, Boomer Brock on the text line did say, didn't I just tell you recently that Torrey Blaylock was going to be all RB2? You almost scoffed. I'm sorry if it came off that way, Boomer Brock. I did not intend to scoff at you. However, I'm still not of the opinion that Torrey Blaylock is going to be RB2, at least not to start the season. I mean, is there a world where, especially if injuries start to come into play, that he could climb that high on the depth chart by the end of the season? Sure, but I think to elevate him that high or to expect that he rises that high, absent other contributing factors in 2025, would be to discount what Javonte Barnes is and has done throughout fall camp and what Xavier Robinson is and did on the field last fall down the stretch and has done throughout the offseason on the practice field as well. So mindful of Javonte Barnes and Xavier Robinson and their continued presence, I would still like to temper expectations regarding Torrey Blaylock's snap count and share of the touches, but he's going to see the field at this point. There's absolutely no question about it. The other thing I wanted to bring up, Grayson, is that, per sources, Jaden Ott is going to be a cog in the kick return machine for Oklahoma. Now, Jaden Ott, in his collegiate career, has returned 5 total kicks. 5. He did return one of them for a 100-yard touchdown. So, he doesn't – the number there, the sample size isn't small just because he's not any good at it. He evidently is. But it's interesting to me that – and I don't know if this is going to carry over to the season. I don't know if this is just something that they're trying out because they try a lot of stuff during fall camp. But if Jaden Ott – is out there on Oklahoma's kick return team, I'm really not sure whether I love it or hate it, to be honest, because obviously the dude's a home run threat, and Oklahoma has needed a home run threat in the kick return game for years. Mentioned it earlier in the week. Oklahoma has not returned a kick for a touchdown since Joe Mixon did it against Ohio State in 2016. It's been forever. It's been 84 years. But also, the other side of that is he's one of the most valuable players on your entire roster. And so the last thing you want is, for instance, what happened to Billy Bowman in the TCU game in 2022, where Bowman was a high-value defensive commodity, but Oklahoma also had him returning kicks at the time, and he got injured returning a kick against TCU. That cost him several games, including the Texas game. And so that's a risk you run if you're sending a guy like Ott out there, is you're increasing the risk that he winds up getting hurt. So there's reason to love it. There's reason to hate it. I kind of find myself waffling somewhere in between those two. I really don't know.
I don't really think this is very much of a good idea. And you mentioned that even though he's good at returning kicks, he hasn't really much in his career at Cal. You know why that is? Because most teams don't send their RB1 back to return kicks. That's generally, not always, but generally the rule of thumb is that you're not putting RB1, wide receiver 1, or some high-profile defensive player back there to return kicks. Here's the other thing that makes me think this just isn't the greatest of ideas. We're already talking about a dude that struggles to stay healthy. He had an ankle injury last year that just never healed itself. Now, we believe it has healed itself right now, but then you have this shoulder thing that pops up in fall camp. So we are starting to see a trend of him getting dinged up. You don't want to expose him to more opportunities to do just that, especially because you need him to be your featured back. And if he's not carrying the ball, you can use him in the slot. You can use him in the passing game in a variety of different ways. That's not a chess piece that you have multiple of. So you have to place the highest priority on making sure that you get the best return on your investment in terms of putting him out there. And I don't think having him going back and returning kicks fits into that.
Postal Sooner says, if DeMarco doesn't hurt his knee in the Big 12 title game, we smoke Florida. Not a good idea to put Ott returning kicks. Boomer Brock adds, no thank you. That gives shades of DeMarco Murray and why we lost to Florida in the national championship game. Mark and Blanchard said, I didn't want DeMarco Murray on the kick return team. Look how that turned out. So everybody is making the DeMarco Murray comparisons here, and I kind of figured that's
the most natural
go.
one.
Yeah, and look, I would hope that what is happening is that Oklahoma is just giving this a try. Just giving this a try, getting him some looks, starting to develop some comfort back there, and if at some point it's something that you want to whip out, if you want to mid-season, throw Jaden Ott back there to return a couple kicks, see if he can break a big one. Like, I don't think he's going to be start to finish your kick returner at the University of Oklahoma in the 2025 season, because I just think he's too valuable. The same kind of goes for Isaiah Satania at wideout. Like, he's a really good return man, just like Jaden Ott, but he has such value to this offense that at a certain point you want to at least mitigate the risk. And so who does that create opportunities for in the return game? I would be lying if I said I knew. And if the last few seasons are any indication, there are going to be precious few constants in that picture for Oklahoma when we're talking kick and punt return. The one constant when he was here was Gavin Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin Freeman saw a lot of action in the return game. But outside of that, it's been a revolving door, an ensemble cast of characters, if you will. Outlaw Devil is not thrilled. He says, if Ott runs back one kick, BV should be fired immediately. I don't know about that, Outlaw Devil. I don't think, like...
Seems a little extreme.
Well, and I guess I'll put it this way. Like, if this is an avenue Oklahoma is pursuing, they're pursuing it because they think Jaden Ott can provide an objective boost to Oklahoma in the special teams realm. They think the good outweighs the bad, if you see it on game day, at least. Brian from Maryland says, DeMarco did it, I see no issue. And, yeah, I mean, the other side of that coin, when you're talking about the injury that DeMarco suffered in the Big 12 championship game that kept him out of the national championship game against Florida, is that DeMarco did have many a big return in his career at Oklahoma. So, yeah, the injury sucked. Did it cost Oklahoma in that national championship game? To a certain extent, yes. But there's also a lot of good that came from the decision to put DeMarco Murray back there in the return game.
Reformed Sooner said, oh, you guys on, Parker?
No, go ahead. Yeah, I was going to go to the text line anyway. Go ahead.
Reformed Sooner says, is Ott more likely to get hurt on a flare pass or on a kickoff return? I will answer that by this. College football still uses the traditional kickoff that the NFL went away from. The season the NFL went away from that traditional kick, concussions in the NFL dropped tremendously. That's how I'll answer that question. The kickoff is still one of the most dangerous parts of football.
Austin Dave, a couple of good texts here. For the record, when Mixon returned that kick for a touchdown, he was RB1. Bob emphasized the best 11 on the field. And when you look at it through that lens, I kind of love it at that point because, shoot, man, you got to win this year. If you don't win this year, there is no next year. Smoke him if you got him. If you think Jaden Ott's the best kick returner on your roster, send him out there to return kicks. You know, like at the end of the day, it's all about winning this year. And this is the only year you have of Jaden Ott. Might as well maximize the value that you get from his acquisition and the investment that you made to go and obtain his services. Austin Dave added, it also increases Ott's draft stock if there is film of him returning kicks. Great point as well.
This is true.
405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, which has been lighting up this segment. People have opinions, lots of them. Share them with us. Again, 405-651-3439. More ahead as we wrap up Locked In on a Friday. Keep it here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
A true Sooner fan wouldn't be caught dead without the KREF app. Join the Army. Get the app. Tell your friends. This is the Ref, where diehard Sooner fans listen.
Entrepreneurs in Moore, Norman, and South Oklahoma City have an experienced business partner in their neighborhood. Moore Norman Technology Center's Workforce and Economic Development Team understands the challenges entrepreneurs and small businesses face every day. From building an effective business model to hiring the right employees and managing cash flow, Moore Norman's business development experts can help you move forward confidently and thrive, knowing that you have a skilled partner at your side. Learn more about Moore Norman's Technology Center by calling 405-801-5000 or visit us online at mntc.edu.
At Armstrong Bank, your business isn't just business to us, it's personal. Our bankers are invested in your success, and we're ready to build a relationship that lasts. You deserve a strong financial partner by your side. Together, we can help make your business even stronger with products and services designed for your convenience. To learn more, visit a location near you or visit Armstrong.bank. Armstrong Bank, Strength runs in our family. Member FDIC.
Hey guys, it's Dory Noka. Have you been involved in an auto accident? If so, it's time to contact the OKC Car Crash Clinic of Dr. Martin Lopez. He's a board-certified and fellowship MD with unparalleled training and experience. Dr. Lopez works with a great team of healthcare professionals and attorneys to help you achieve the best physical and financial recovery. Contact Dr. Lopez at 405-86-CRASH or at okccrash.com. Don't forget to listen every week to the Dory Noka Show for the Impact Player of the Game, brought to you by Dr. Martin Lopez.
Hi, everybody. Toby Rowland here for one of my favorite places to golf, the Trails Golf Club in Norman. The Trails offers great golf activities for the entire family. Men's and Ladies Golf Association events, summer junior golf for the kids, plus club fittings throughout the year. The Trails also has great family social events, monthly special dinners, plus holiday brunches and catering. When you're looking for the perfect place to golf, check out the Trails Golf Club in Norman. Contact Zane Alexander today at 405-364-3790 or visit trailsgolf.com.
Josh Helmer here, co-host of the Dory Noka Show and part of your Sooner Game Day coverage here at the Ref. Catch us every Sooner Game Day as we take a deep dive into the Sooners matchup for the week, leading up to and after the game. Whether the Sooners are playing at the Palace or anywhere across the country, there's no better way to listen than by tuning in on the KREF app. Apple or Android, it doesn't matter. Just search for KREF in your app store and never miss a second of the Ref's Game Day coverage. That's the KREF app to take the home of Sooner fans anywhere you go in the world. Vance Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram has been making vehicle shoppers and buyers happy for over 40 years. Why? Vance is family owned and operated with stores in Guthrie, Miami, and Woodward. John, Megan, and the rest of the Vance family have one of the highest repeat customer percentages in the central U.S., with a staff that truly cares about customers. And you don't find pushy salespeople or last-minute surprises. You will find a plethora of inventory and the lowest finance rates available. Visit VanceAutoGroup.com during our Labor Day sales event. You'll see hundreds of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles with the price for purchase or lease and all available discounts and rebates. Shop and buy from an Oklahoma family who will work hard to make you a customer for life. Vance Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. VanceAutoGroup.com.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Final segment of Locked In for this week, our last without Sooner football. Here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, and many of you have many strong opinions. Many strong opinions. Man, a 405 listener says, you guys crack me up. One of the best returners was a state running back, unfortunately drafted by the Lions. No telling if his future went to a quality. I'm not really sure what that text is supposed to express.
I think he's referring to Barry Sanders.
Oh, okay. Okay. He said we can walk across the road and get hurt. Well, yes, realistically, you can get hurt doing anything. You are correct. However, it's a matter of the likelihood, right? I am far more likely, for instance, to get in an automobile accident than I am to get stepped on by an elephant. I'm not really worried about those two things to the same extent. Dan in Madison, Mississippi says, I think it's also a little bit of a bluff. You put somebody like Ott back there, and you may force them to kick it into the end zone. They may not risk that short kick and him getting some space and going somewhere. Now we're thinking, Dan. I like where you're headed here. Joe in Tulsa says Satania is a proven kick returner with speed and better hands than a running back. Receivers are more used to handling the ball. they're more used to handle. I would argue there's no player, there's no position on a football field that's more used to handling the ball than running back. How many times has Jaden Ott fumbled in his career? I need to get an answer on this. I'm ashamed I don't know this off the top of my head. How many times in his career has this young man fumbled? Because I don't think it's a lot. I don't think he has fumbled a whole heck of a lot. I'm going to have to do some research because those aren't the easiest statistics to dig up. You can find rushing yards and rushing touchdowns and all those things pretty easily. Fumbles, not as much, not as easily accessible. Gunny of Stutzman Army says, you could slip, fall, and die in the shower. Does this mean that Texter will stop taking showers? Nailed it, Gunny. Well done. Kyle from Southsaw says, next time we talk on Locked In, it'll be game week. Sheds tear. I know we've said it, but we get to say the F word again. I love football. Don't we all? Jesse G says, should probably consider that maybe Ott wants to return kicks for his NFL resume, and the staff is comfortable with the depth of the running back room. I mean, and there's a lot of truth to that too, Jesse G. I mean, the more we flesh that out, the more I lean in favor of liking Jaden Ott back there returning kicks. Because let's just say worst comes to worst. Worst comes to absolute worst, Grayson, and at some point you lose Jaden Ott for the season. Does that feel like a death blow for your offense? Obviously it stings. But with the depth you have and some of the other contributors that are proven at the running back position within Oklahoma's backfield, I don't know that it necessarily feels like your entire campaign is on the fritz all of a sudden.
Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't completely tank your offense, but I will tell you this. It hampers it. It hampers it a lot because what Jaden Ott does, there has not been another running back in Oklahoma's room that has proven that they can be that sort of a versatile weapon. We're not talking about you can potentially line Javonte Barnes out in the slot, and he could, have that wiggle and blow it open for 60 yards to the house. That's a Jaden Ott thing. That's a Jaden Ott capability. I don't think Javonte Barnes presents that. I don't think there's anybody else in the running back room that presents that. When he's at his best, Jaden Ott has drawn the praise that he is a top 5 running back in the country when he's at his best. We've never said that about anybody else, even though they've had limited opportunities to prove that they are. That hasn't been said about anybody else in this running back room. So it's not a death sentence, but your offense does get substantially handicapped if he does, tear an ACL returning kicks.
A listener down in Texas says ESPN shows Ott's career fumbles at 0. No career fumbles for Jaden Ott. I'll take ESPN's word for it. They bill themselves as the worldwide leader in sports. So I'm going to assume they know what they're talking about. 0 fumbles in his career for Jaden Ott. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what the exact number was. I knew he had a reputation as a guy that did not put the ball on the turf all that often. So there's that. Josh from the 405 says, Rob Tatum, Javonte Barnes, Oklahoma has guys to carry the rock. They'd be fine. Well, and you didn't even mention Torrey Blaylock there, Josh, and there's going to be a role for Torrey Blaylock. Like, to me, the guy that has the most to prove, the guy that has to earn it at this point, if he's going to get any share, is Taylor Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Taylor Tatum may very well wind up the odd man out in this backfield because there's going to have to be an odd man out at this point. There may be 2 odd men out. Can you make enough? Can you create enough touches for 4 backs? I don't know that you can. You certainly can't create enough touches for 5 backs. So somebody's going to be the odd man out. And right now, the unfortunate leader in the clubhouse in that department looks to be Taylor Tatum. A 580 listener says, what's weird is we haven't talked about Taylor Tatum like at all. Well, he's been hurt throughout fall camp. Obviously, ball security and lack of pass blocking ability did him no favors in terms of his role maximization a season ago. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Taylor Tatum at this point to start doing stuff both on the practice field and on Saturdays that convinces the Oklahoma staff that they can trust him and that there is a place for him in this committee. Because right now, man, there's absolutely a place for Jaden Ott. There's absolutely a place for Javonte Barnes. There's absolutely a place for Xavier Robinson, and it's looking like there's absolutely a place for Torrey Blaylock. Taylor Tatum has to change their mind, either about him or about somebody else, or both. Luke says, wasn't Tatum a consensus 5-star? He was not a consensus 5-star. He was the number 1 overall running back in the country in the 2024 recruiting cycle. Spartan Sooner says, is Tatum our highest-rated running back out of high school? That would be crazy if he ends up being our odd man out. It would be crazy, but Oklahoma fans that have followed this team for at least a couple decades know 5-star running backs can go one of, 3 different ways. You could have the legend. You could stumble upon a legend like an Adrian Peterson, or Joe Mixon isn't legend status, but he's made quite the living for himself and was very successful at the collegiate level, has been very successful at the professional level. I almost had a stroke there for a second. But those 2 guys, obvious hits. Jeremy Calhoun, a whiff and a half. Then you had somebody like Keith Ford, right? I think Keith Ford was a 5-star, wasn't he? Keith Ford was just kind of so-so, like somewhere in between. Is that maybe what it becomes for Taylor Tatum if he gets shuffled out of the rotation this year? I mean, obviously he's going to be, if he doesn't see substantial action and he slips behind the other 4 guys on the pecking order, then he's going to be somebody that the entire fan base looks at as a likely portal candidate come the end of the season. But even if he sticks around, man, again, there's youth in that room. Yeah, Barnes and Ott graduate. Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock aren't going anywhere. And the kid that's coming in next year, DeZeph Walker, he can ball too. At some point, you got to earn your opportunities, man. Got to. Les in Hayes, Kansas says, Keith broke his leg, then transferred. He was okay. Exactly. Just okay. Outlaw Devil says, the odd man out is Tatum. If he can't crack the baseball lineup, he might as well hit the portal.
4-star Brian in Bixby views this along my same lines of thinking. The cost-benefit analysis says there's no reason to put Ott in kickoff return. And when you talk about something like mitigating risk, to me that just seems unnecessary. But I will say this, and this might counter my own point. Situationally, though, if there's a spot in a game, in a high-leverage game, at a high-leverage moment, that you say, let's take the chance to see if we can create a home run here. I'm down to put Jaden Ott back there in those situations, not full-time and not even close to full-time. But situationally, I think it could be a good surprise because there's a lot of things on special teams in terms of trading out returners that sometimes go unnoticed by the opposing sideline.
Somebody in the 405 says the next back that falls when someone touches their shoelaces is the odd man out. Oh, wow. Brother. A listener in Tennessee says, one source says 0 fumbles, another says 4 fumbles in 416 attempts. Either way, if you're only coughing the ball up every 100 rushes or so, you'll take that. That means on any given carry, that's a 99% chance that you're going to hold on to the ball and not put it on the turf. Most will take that. I know I will, especially after last year. Reform Sooner says, are special teams important or not? If yes, play the best. And there was somebody, and I lost the text now, but somebody was like, why not just fair catch every single kickoff? And they brought up all the analytical reasons why it just makes more sense to do that with regard to field position than roll the dice with a return. But that's what Lincoln Riley did in 2021, and everybody hated him for it. I think Oklahoma actually returned like 12 kicks that year, and that was it. They fair caught almost everything. But people hated it. They were like, please return, because part of it was situational, too. You'd see that kick in the air, and based on the way that everything was developing, even early as the ball was still in the air in terms of where the kick was going, where the returner was going to catch it, what he was going to have in front of him in terms of blockers and lanes, there were several kicks, and I remember there might have been boos at Owen Field when Mario Williams or whoever it was would fair catch a kick, that it just didn't really make any sense to fair catch. Like, there was very obvious potential for a big return there, and they just didn't take the chance. So, man, everything on special teams happens in the blink of an eye. Fast decisions. Everything happens fast on a football field. Special teams, no exception. All right, folks. Locked In is a wrap. We're done for the week here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. However, Teddy Lehman and Tyler McComas are about to take over and take you all the way till 6 p.m. on The Rush. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you Monday.